Well, it looks like the True Sons are getting bolder under their new leader, General Anderson. He used to be a strategist for Ridgeway, and it looks like his ambition has reached new heights. He's smart. They're keeping him at a secure location. We're getting reports of 5 of his True Sons moving on DC. Major Castillo, a civilian turned True Son. Castillo's background is in engineering. He's been taking over radio frequencies and broadcasting these rants that, frankly, if you didn't know better, could be quite the recruiting tool. Sergeant Daniels. This woman is a piece of work. We're getting reports of her indiscriminately assassinating civilians in the street. She's on a rampage. We've also got a logistical nightmare on our hands with Lieutenant Chang. His background and experience has shored up the True Sun supply lines and weapons. We can't afford to let him build their stockpiles. Then there's Major Zander. She has some anger management issues. Zander's been torturing and interrogating civilians. I don't know what she's hoping to learn from them, but we can't allow her to carry out this inquisition. And, last but not least, is Captain Lewis. We haven't actually seen him in DC yet, but we've intercepted comms that imply he and General Anderson are planning something big. Agent, you know what to do.
Malcolm Castillo was the senior engineer at the Pentco Fairview nuclear power plant. Expecting his first child with his wife Sharon, the prospect of their future was both exciting and daunting. He'd always been very particular about how things should be done, and when it came to preparing the house for the arrival of their new baby, this was of no exception. Castillo had a plan, and this would be one of the major contributions he could actually do for his expectant wife, and he was eager to get started as soon as possible. So for the sake of their marriage, and to avoid any more unnecessary stress, Sharon had decided that at 5 months pregnant, it would be a good time to visit her family in New York. This would also be one of the last times she would be completely child-free, and a Black Friday shopping spree with her sister in Manhattan sounded perfect. The plan was simple. She was to spend 2 weeks bonding with her sister, while Castillo focused on getting the house ready. Unbeknownst to her and the multitude of shoppers on Black Friday, a deadly virus, known as the green poison, had been released. And sadly, while out shopping, Sharon too contracted the virus. Assuming that it was no more than just the flu, she refused to seek treatment. Her main concern was that the doctors might prescribe her something that could harm her unborn baby. 10 days later, at a clinic in Brooklyn, Sharon died. Utterly broken and grieving the loss of his wife and unborn child, Castillo immersed himself deeply into his work in the hopes of keeping his mind busy. Eventually, he moved himself into the facility to ensure that the plant remained functional at all times. As the pandemic continued to progress, the National Guard was ultimately sent in to protect the compound, and in order for Castillo to remain on site, he would have to enlist. Even after completing basic training, his primary objective still remained the same. As the on-site expert, he was to continue in his role of keeping the power plant safe and operational. However, always there and in the back of his mind, he believed that Sarah, the JTF, the government, and in turn the division, were all heavily responsible for what happened to his family. He held the belief that there was no way possible that they were unaware of Amherst's plans, and that they simply just allowed it to happen. Anderson, who was a logistics officer to the leader of the True Sons, Antoine Ridgeway, was successfully able to tap into Castillo's grief along with further heightening his mistrust of the government. By using Castillo's anguish and genuine experiences to express his deepest heartbreak, Anderson was able to convince the National Guard to abandon their post, and thus allowing the True Sons to take control of the plant.
Nice to meet you, Castillo. I've heard great things.
Wish I could say the same, Dusk.
Excuse me.
I don't care if your watch is red, your division. And now you're working with the Black Tusk.
I can assure you, I'm a True Son.
Then why are you still wearing that garbage?
The best way I can support the True Sons is to take advantage of the existing infrastructure. I thought that was something we had in common.
You're smart.
So are you. and we are specialists in our fields. As long as you are loyal to Ridgeway, to the cause, I promise to keep you safe.
You really are a true son.
I am. Now, give me the tour. I've never been to a power plant before. Do I need to wear like a lead-lined suit or something?
Only if you go near the reactor or your radiation meter goes into the red. But that won't happen.
Lynette Edwards, codenamed Dusk, was a third-generation Marine. Shortly after her first tour, she was recruited by the SHD. After the outbreak, Dusk was activated in Washington, D.C., but it didn't take long for her to come to the conclusion that the institution was corrupt. In fact, she was finding herself more and more aligned with the True Sons' way of thinking. Eventually, she decided that enough was enough. She turned rogue and joined up with the True Sons. When the True Sons' leader, Antoine Ridgeway, was eventually hunted down and killed by the division, Dusk went on to continue Ridgeway's work with a group of True Sons who were devoted to his cause. Unfortunately, the attacks had left them weakened and short on supplies. She would do whatever it took to help her new family. Dusk would use her contacts to gain a connection within the Black Tusk and offer a trade in return for food, water, and weapons. Barton Schaefer would get in contact. She explained the situation that her and the True Sons were in. Supplies were critically low and that they didn't have enough weapons to go around. Barton agreed to the request of assistance and made a deal where they could work together. With all of this happening, Castillo would keep on working tirelessly to keep the power plant operational, while also continuing to obsess over the events that led to his wife's death.
Castillo, we've been having rolling blackouts. Everything stable with the grid?
Nothing is stable with the grid. Everything is old and failing.
That's comforting. Should I be looking for a fallout shelter?
Everything is stable with the reactor. The reactor and the grid are two separate things. Trust me, if the reactor failed, you'd know.
Oh, well, you're the expert.
Your local power supply has nothing to do with our work here. If you're having rolling blackouts, brownouts, or unstable power, you're going to need to send someone down to the relay stations and transformers and see if they need maintenance.
I'll see if I've got anyone who knows that infrastructure.
Good luck. Start with ex-Public Works employees. Or, I guess, raid the Secretary of the Interior's office for a map of the power stations.
You're funny.
I'm serious. Go to City Hall. They should have schematics for all of this stuff. It should also be online. Your precious Isaac should have all that data.
You should be an agent.
I'm happy being an engineer. I don't need to play sheriff. It's probably squatters. Someone taps into the line, doesn't know what they're doing, and fucks up the whole system. You'll need to check the stations. Then you need to send the exterminators to take care of the rats chewing on the wires. Should be like riding a bike for you, Agent.
After some time had passed, and the leader of the True Sons, Antoine Ridgeway, was killed by the division, and then Dusk during the Barton Schaefer manhunt, General Anderson would step up and take the reins. Anderson had ambitious goals for the True Sons and planned on expanding their reach far beyond Washington, D.C. It was around this time that Castillo had decided that it was time for him to put down his work and investigate further. He wanted to go into D.C. to find out more and who was responsible. But without him on site, there would be no one to run the power plant. So Anderson made a deal with him to train up True Sons members to work in his place while he was gone.
How are the new recruits doing? Great. We've got 4 shifts, 10 people per shift. 40 skilled prisoners trained and ready to operate the reactor in case anything happens to me. Each shift has a True Son at the helm to keep them in line and train any future replacements, and each of them has 2 backups. We're set for the worst case scenario. And the best case.
Best case?
If we want to expand our operations, we have the opportunity to build a mobile team to take control over another reactor. The infrastructure, design, and basic mechanics are similar enough that my crew should be able to figure out how to keep the lights on.
That's excellent news, Castillo.
Thank you, sir. About that favor.
You've more than earned it. Transpose on their way, you will have a squadron at your disposal. Good luck in D.C. I hope you find what you're looking for.
Thank you, sir.
After training enough True Sons to run the plant, General Anderson rewarded his dedication by sending him to Washington, D.C. to investigate Sarah and the division's role in his wife's death. But Anderson had ulterior motives behind this gift. Having already used Castillo's speaking talents to gain control of the power plant without bloodshed previously, he saw a powerful propaganda machine that could be placed in the middle of DC. There, he could continue to bolster the True Sons' ranks, or at the very least, provide a much-needed distraction. It was a win either way in Anderson's eyes.
There is no reason that Amherst should have been allowed to release his poison on the world, other than some idiot with access made a choice. And the choice they made was to let my wife, Sharon Castillo, and her sister Carolyn Owens, and my daughter, who we were waiting to meet, to name. My child, who I will never be able to name because I will never be able to meet her because she was still inside of Sharon when those monsters dumped their bodies into a mass grave in Central Park and set it on fire to contain the virus. My wife and daughter paid the price for their negligence.
After taking back a number of strategic points of interest, Castillo and a group of True Sons would eventually be tracked down and confronted by division agents at the DCD headquarters. There, he would face off against the division agents, eventually being brought down and killed. Michelle Daniels. Her great-grandfather was a proud Confederate soldier, her grandfather an army man, her father an army man, and her brother an army man. A proud and male-dominated family with deep roots entrenched in patriarchy and service to their country. The loss of her mother during Daniel's birth meant that she never truly had a maternal figure to help advise and guide her while growing up. Maybe the softness of a mother could have shaped her differently, made her gentle, and possibly even meant a different path in her life. Yet irregardless, she grew up tough. She had a hardness about her that even the boys lacked. She was gritty, callous, and at times indifferent and cold. Taking a life was easy. There were never any regrets, and why should there be? It was her right. She was an apex hunter. Others noted with alarm her seemingly dismissive nature in regards to taking a life. When she fished, when she hunted, and that sharpening her rifle skills was more important than anything else. Yet her father always insisted that Daniel's demeanor was just the result of not having a mother, growing up around a multitude of males, and adopting a tomboy attitude in order to survive. Contradictory to her father's efforts in stopping the rumors, Daniels never felt she needed to justify herself. Her attitude had always served her well in the past, and this proved successful in the army as well, and she took immense pleasure in testing and pushing the boundaries of new recruits to see if she could break them. Unsurprisingly, her actions were noticed by her superiors, and as a result, she was repeatedly written up for objectionable behavior unbecoming of an officer. After serving in one tour, she returned back to her life and hometown as a civilian. There, she began to work for her father in his tackle shop and hosting guided fishing tours on the Potomac River. Unsatisfied and discontented with this lifestyle, a year after leaving the army, she enlisted with the National Guard in the hopes of finding some excitement and to stave off further boredom, while also continuing to work as a river guide. With the outbreak of the deadly virus, the National Guard was activated in Washington, D.C., and she, like so many others, would eventually be merged into the JTF. Anything and everything necessary to save what remained, Daniels was undaunted by the task and ready to get to work. But eventually she became aware of Antoine Ridgway, his ideals, and his loyal men, the True Sons. This was the moment she had been training for. Finally a leader who wasn't afraid to do what was necessary, someone she could admire, who would appreciate her strengths and recognize her indifferences towards others and death to be assets rather than liabilities. Not long after Agent Dusk defected from the division, she met Daniels, and they would become strong allies and friends. After Antoine Ridgway's death, when the True Sons were demoralized, broken, and severely short on supplies and weapons, Dusk made contact with Schaefer to negotiate the terms of him providing the True Sons with support. Nervous about going to meet him alone, Dusk reached out to Daniels for backup.
Dusk to Sergeant Daniels. Come in, Daniels.
This is Daniels. What can I do for you, Dusk?
You free tomorrow?
Not really. What do you need?
I've got to meet with Schaefer. He didn't show for the last one. Something feels off. Could really use someone I trust to have my back.
Oh, I thought you wanted alone time with your boyfriend.
Gross. Gross. I don't know what Faye is thinking working with him. I don't know if I could trust this guy.
He's Black Tusk, but he's a Boy Scout.
We talking about the same Schaefer?
You want that backup or not?
Better safe than sorry.
I can't make it, but I can lend you a couple of guards.
Thanks, Daniels. I owe you one.
More like 20.
In order to get the food and the equipment for her true sons to survive and rebuild, Dusk would have to join Schaefer on an operation he would soon be carrying out in DC. Dusk and her guard of true sons were to run point in the southeastern districts of the city, capturing multiple sites of interest in East Mall, Southwest, and Capitol Hill. But ultimately, this was a suicide mission, merely a distraction. Dusk and her accompanying true sons would one by one be hunted down by the division and eliminated. And eventually, even Schaefer would end up being captured on Coney Island. Daniels took the loss of her friend very hard and demanded revenge, so she approached General Anderson for orders on how to proceed.
General Anderson, status report. Division took Dusk off the board.
That's too bad.
We need to counterstrike.
Negative, Daniels.
But she was one of ours. She was a true son.
She was a rogue agent first. She was one of us, but she was also one of them. And with loyalties as fluid as Dusk's, there's no way to know if she was playing her own angle.
No. I sent my men with her.
And in time, we will avenge them, but not today. We need to see how this plays out.
Schaefer's to blame, General.
We don't know that for sure, but I will look into it personally.
We can't keep working with the Black Tusk. They're a liability.
You may be right. There are too many rogues in their organization. Who knows what they're really planning? And with ELLIS in their pocket, proceed with caution.
General Anderson simply brushed this off as an acceptable loss. To him, Dusk was a turncoat, and would have more than likely done the same thing to the True Sons when it suited her. Yet he did agree that working with the Black Tusk was potentially the wrong direction going forward. After the death of Fei Lau at Camp White Oak, Sergeant Daniels was sent by Captain Lewis to Washington, D.C. as part of his specialized team. There she seemed to be looking for something, as reports indicated a multitude of civilian interrogations acted out by her personally. But it would seem she wasn't getting the outcome she needed.
General Anderson?
Yes, Sergeant Daniels, how can I help you?
Captain Lewis said I should talk to you. I want permission to use advanced interrogation techniques.
Sergeant?
I know that if I can push them a little harder, I can get them to tell us what they know about the hunt.
You don't need my permission to do what you feel is necessary. I trust your judgment.
Thank you, sir.
If your methods produce results, that's all that matters.
Oh, I'll get the answers we're looking for.
Thank you for being so thorough.
A true son leaves no stone unturned. We'll root out these snakes.
Anderson was happy to oblige, especially if it would get the results that the True Sons needed. However, these are the actions that would put Daniels on the division's radar. Agents would catch up to Sergeant Daniels in downtown West, where she and her True Sons had set up a stronghold, capturing strategic points throughout the district. One by one they were taken down, and at the bank headquarters, division agents and Daniels met face to face. Although she was well defended, and her troop of True Sons fought hard, the agents were able to persevere and fight through, and eventually take her down. Mackenzie Chang is a third-generation Chinese-American who was born and raised in Washington, D.C. His father and his mother's father were both in the Navy, and so, like them, Chang too wanted to follow in their footsteps. Enlisting at 18, he soon discovered that it wasn't the right fit for him. He hated the water and found the Navy and their rules were not to his liking. He ended up being placed in the ground transportation team, and there he felt his time and skills were being wasted. Eventually things came to a head when he got himself involved in a bar fight, and as a result he broke his arm and 3 ribs. With a year still left on his contract, his family were able to pull some strings, and fortunately for him, they were able to get him an honourable discharge from the Navy. He returned to civilian life and got a job as a museum security guard within the local mall. Yet, he soon realised that being a security guard at the museum was not as exciting as he thought it would be, and began to miss regular combat trials. He endeavoured to get some of that adrenaline rush back, so he tried his hand at airsoft and hunting, yet these two also lacked the luster he was after. Finally, he joined the National Guard in hopes that this would bring some of the action he was longing for. When the National Guard was eventually called on to secure the mall against peaceful protesters, Chang saw this as an opportunity to use his previous knowledge and expertise as a mall security guard to set up the perfect perimeter. General Anderson was impressed by the initiative Chang showed and immediately took him under his wing in logistics. Not long after the death of Antoine Ridgway, Anderson gave Chang his own unit. However, he denied him the promotion that Chang so desired in becoming captain until he could prove himself as a worthy leader. Chang is unwavering in his determination to demonstrate that he is deserving of the leadership role and ready for the title of captain and the admiration of General Anderson.
General Anderson, I just wanted to send my condolences about Dusk and her team.
Thank you, Schaefer.
Moving forward, is there someone else you'd like me to work with?
That won't be necessary.
The division has control of your supply routes in D.C. How do you think you'll survive without our assistance?
Well, Lieutenant Chang has more than enough experience organizing transpo and supply drops. We no longer require your services as a glorified errand boy.
I think you're making a mistake.
I've only made 2 mistakes in my life. The first was trusting Lau. The second was letting her bring you into our operation. Good night, Schaefer.
After Agent Dusk's death, Schaefer would get in contact with General Anderson. With everything that had gone down, they were no longer willing to work with the Black Tusk. Rogue agents, hunters that seemed unable to be controlled, and a leadership who were working under their own hidden agenda. Anderson decided that it was no longer in the True Sons' best interest to be working alongside them. Anything they had gained from working with them was more than being made up for by the work Lieutenant Chang was doing in logistics. Baden Schaefer would leave a message with Natalia Sokolova to update her of the situation.
Natalia, Schaefer, just got off the horn with General Anderson. He's decided Black Tusk supplies and assistance are no longer required. The True Sons are on their own, and any tentative peace we may have brokered has been severed by the death of Lynette Dusk Edwards. I'm not comfortable working with the Hunters. This arrangement is creating more problems, and we are losing allies. This is not why I joined the Black Tusk.
Schaefer voices his concerns. He explains that Agent Dusk's death seemed to be a large part of this partnership breaking down, but that the Hunters are his biggest problem. They can't be trusted. They're jeopardizing the mission. This is not what he signed up for. Schaefer would eventually be contacted by Lieutenant Chang.
Schaefer, this is Chang. Come in. Good to hear from you, Lieutenant. You change your mind about working together?
No.
So this is a social call?
Dusk was a good woman and a damn fine soldier.
I know.
She was going to meet you, and you got her killed.
You know that was beyond my control.
You weren't even there. You left her to die.
You're right. I wasn't there. We've run into some complications.
What kind of complications?
There was another player on the field.
What the hell are you talking about?
Those division agents weren't the only ones targeting her.
You make it sound like she was being stalked.
Or hunted.
Chang just wanted to give Schaefer a piece of his mind, wanting him to answer for what he did to Dusk. Schaefer agreed that he had let her down, but that there were unexpected developments, that someone who had been brought in to help, instead, hunted her down. After Fei Lau's death, Captain Lewis sent Chang into Washington, D.C. as part of a specialized team. His job was to re-establish the True Sons' transportation and supply chain in the area, However, after capturing a number of important locations in the Foggy Bottom district, he would quickly appear on the SHD's radar. After battling through Chang's countless number of True Sun soldiers, they would eventually catch up to him in the Potomac Event Center. With the division agent's superior training, it wasn't long before Lieutenant Chang, like so many before him, was eliminated. Amanda Zander only wanted one thing in life: the opportunity to become a police officer. It's all that she had ever really dreamed of, the desire to uphold the law and an eagerness to bring justice and order to the people. She possessed a high level of dedication and skill in her work in the narcotics sector, and nothing felt better to her than identifying a potential target and hunting them down. Yet police work wasn't all that she'd thought it would crack up to be, as most of the time it was a waiting game filled with endless paperwork and copious amounts of cream-filled donuts. She knew she had to find other means of entertainment to make up for her lackluster career, so she joined a competitive shooting league. Yet Zander was still not content with her situation. She could be a dangerous person at the best of times, and especially when she was bored. She knew it, her family knew it, and recently, due to the use of excessive force on a perpetrator, now her superiors knew it too. Unsurprisingly, as a result, she was sanctioned. She was annoyed at herself, and she knew she had to get back on track and channel her impulsiveness into something else. There was still so much glory out there for her to grasp, and she knew that alarming her superiors so early on in her career was not the way she was going to get it. In order to help her direct her energy into something more constructive, her commanding officer recommended that she sign up for the National Guard. The hope was that the intense training schedule, strict rules, and very little downtime would help curb her impulsive and trigger-finger nature. However, a month later, the devastating green poison was delivered onto the unsuspecting shoppers of New York City on Black Friday, and from then on, everything for Zander would change. She, along with a number of other personnel, were placed on active duty with the JTF, and it was here that a man by the name of Antoine Ridgway would become her commanding officer. Here in this environment, Zander's psychopathic traits of antisocial behavior, lack of empathy, disregard for others, and narcissism thrived. Her callousness was praised, her impulsivity was considered charming, and her notable lack of guilt was an asset. Zander had finally found her place in the world, working for the future leader of the True Sons. During the events of the Bard and Schaefer manhunt, Zander, like many other True Sons, blamed Schaefer for the loss of Dusk.
If I ever see you again, I will fucking kill you, Schaefer. That's a promise.
I understand why you're angry, but we need to put a pin in this and focus on our common enemy.
Agent Lau. I fucking hate that chick. I don't trust her. She's been on my list for a while.
Not Lau. She's not the enemy.
She turned you into her bitch boy. You should hate her.
She has her reasons. This channel's not secure, but you should really talk to Lau.
Fuck that. I'm not letting her get into my head.
Schaefer has been discussing what's happening behind the scenes with Faye for a while now, and he appears to be on board. He now seems to be trying to reach out to others to help in this fight against the true enemy, though Zander's stubbornness will require a different approach.
What do you want, Douglas?
Just a friendly chat.
This about your girlfriend?
Who?
Lau?
Is that what this is about? You hate Lau because you think we're together?
No. I hate Lau because that bitch got half of my squad killed in New York when the reservists were called up to maintain the quarantine.
Oh. Well, good. I'd hate to think you were still pissed about how things ended with us.
Doesn't help that you're sleeping with a traitor.
Okay. She's not a traitor. She's a good woman. She's been through a lot. We all have. Just give her a chance. Meet with her, and you'll see we can help each other. There's something bigger happening.
You two getting married?
Would it matter if we were?
Damn, okay, Douglas. You need me to go rescue your pappy from the White House. You gonna finally reconcile so he can walk you down the aisle? Is that the secret mission?
Zander, focus. We need to work together if we're going to stop what's coming.
Okay, fine. Set it up. I'll meet with Lau.
Bridget Douglas, aka Viper, would later be a part of Fei Lau's team in the following manhunt. Viper was the only child of Charles Douglas, the co-founder of the Douglas and Harding Military Equipment Company, though they weren't particularly close, and after the outbreak, Charles now resides in the White House, acting as the range officer. Viper was an unactivated SHD agent, who instead ended up joining the Black Tusk, where she would later meet Agent Lau. Zander and Viper, having previously been in a relationship, opened up communications between Faye, Schaefer, and the True Sons, where they appear to be recruiting for a future operation. As a side note, I really must bring up the relationship between Faye and Viper. Although this isn't of any particular significance towards the story, other than linking all of these characters together, it's more that I've been getting a hard time at home from my wife, because she absolutely called it way back when the Fei Lau manhunt was going on. But I didn't agree or include it in the video. I need to remember, the wife is always right. So yeah, my bad. Regardless, this recruiting attempt would end up being unsuccessful. Zander would inform General Anderson, who would then get in contact with Natalia Sokolova. But as we now know, Faye is out there working under her own agenda, so Natalia has no idea what he's talking about.
Natalia? I thought we had an understanding.
I understand you no longer wish to work with us, and our fragile truce is broken. I do wish you would reconsider my kind offer.
And I wish you would reconsider trying to recruit my men to whatever clandestine bullshit you and Lau are cooking up.
I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Oh, don't play dumb. It's not convincing on you.
If Lau is reaching out to your True Sons, it is not on my orders. That's on her own volition. Or maybe it's your True Sons that are reaching out to her.
My troops are loyal.
Who did she allegedly reach out to?
Major Zander.
Oh. Well, this is probably a personal matter more than professional.
Have you seen the state of the world? No one has time for personal matters.
Well, women like Amanda find a way to make the time. You don't have to worry. No one is trying to take her from you. She frankly would not be a good fit for the Black Tusk, even if she wasn't trying to cast herself as the victim of a love triangle.
Just stay away from my troops.
Certainly, General. Have a good day. And don't hesitate to call again if you need anything. Good luck managing Zander. Douglas says she can be a bit unstable.
A little while later, after Barton Schaefer was captured by the division and Fei Lau was killed at Camp White Oak, Major Zander was sent into Washington, D.C. with a team of True Sons. However, after reports of her harsh treatment of local civilians started flooding in, the division was sent out to put a stop to her plans. On the eastern side of D.C., they would catch up with Zander in the Judiciary Square district. After taking out a number of outposts being held by the True Sons, agents would find her hunkered down in the District Union arena. And while they would have loved to be able to find out what Zander was searching for, there was no chance that she would allow herself to be taken alive. So piece by piece, her True Son soldiers would be taken apart, and in her final stand, she too would be quickly taken down by the agents. Frederick Lewis spent many a summer on the ocean, rescuing inexperienced tourists who had got themselves into trouble off the North Carolina coastline's unforgiving seas. With the help of his father's small fishing boat and the fact that he had spent the majority of his life on the ocean, Lewis was the perfect man for the job. He had always seen himself as a savior and the best person to bring back those missing at sea to their loved ones. So unsurprisingly, at the completion of high school, he joined the Coast Guard, and over the course of time worked his way up into the prestigious search and rescue team. Eventually Lewis married, and at the request of his new wife, they moved to a homestead in Kentucky. With the property value of the old fishing shack ballooning, they were able to buy a large estate which consisted of 40 acres. Yet soon after, Lewis grew tired of playing the part of a farmer and decided to join the National Guard in the hopes of once again finding his true purpose. Though after all of his sacrifices for his wife's happiness, and moving away from the sea he loved so much, and attempting to live a less thrilling life for the betterment of their relationship, she was the one who started looking elsewhere. The young man they hired to help around the farm was the perfect candidate, and 2 years after their big move to Kentucky, she had an affair. When Lewis discovered the relationship, he was devastated. After everything he'd given up, he still wasn't enough for her. So he quietly packed up his bags, collected his faithful dog, got into his truck, and left. Lewis knew there was only one place he truly felt whole: the ocean. His father and the sea welcomed him back with love and open arms. Once there, he rejoined the Coast Guard and tried to rebuild his shattered soul. Yet his efforts would soon be undermined again, as not long after his return to North Carolina, the green poison was released. Sent to DC to help support the JTF, the impact of his experiences, including his failed marriage, led him to be cold, nasty, and unmerciful to those he was entrusted to lead and protect.
Captain Lewis, we ready for homecoming?
Just a few things to take care of here and I'll be on my way. Advance team is already on location. Lieutenant Chang's delivered and we have more than enough supplies for the party.
That's great news.
When Major Castillo got to DC, he recorded some very emotional reports. We decided to make some of them public. No greater recruiting tool than a civilian who found purpose with the true sons.
Careful, Captain. You keep delivering work this good, I might think you're after my job.
Not to worry, General. I hate the office politics. Working with the team, that's where I belong. Making sure the trains run smoothly and we all come back safe. That's where I know I can be of service. Leadership support roles and infrastructure. That's the work that fuels me.
We need people like you, Captain. That's the thing about the division. A bunch of lone wolves with no real infrastructure and alliances. They were set up to fail.
Hire a bunch of specialists, train them to use another to solve their problems. This is what you get. You can't depend on someone and build trust if you only talk to them when you need something.
People like that are unwilling to acknowledge their shortcomings or ask for help until they're already in trouble.
This is why I knew following you and Ridgway was the right call. He was proactive. He was willing to make the tough calls because he saw where the road was heading.
And now that he's gone, we will finish the journey together and bring our cause to every state in the nation. Good luck in DC.
Captain Lewis checks in with General Anderson to give him an update on how his team has been going in DC. Everything is running according to plan, and he's ready to enact his part of the operation. But one thing is for certain, neither of them hold the division in particularly high regards, referring to them as a failed initiative, flawed from its inception.
Status report. We are getting ready to take the network, but there have been some unexpected roadblocks. Increased instability in the power grid, surges and blackouts, some data anomalies, insecure comms, and increased brute force attacks. Some of my men are reporting that they have seen some odd lights and feel like they are being watched. I thought the stress was getting to them, but the reports are coming from all times of day and from folks I trust. Major Zander is looking into it, but I don't know that our methods will yield the results we're looking for.
Once in DC, unusual reports start flooding in. Zander was set forth in order to find out what's going on, but Lewis doesn't expect her direct approach will provide the results they need. However, this doesn't matter for now. The target they've been hunting for has been found. Captain Lewis and his men set course and head there immediately.
Lewis, what's your ETA?
Should be arriving at the party by sundown tomorrow.
Negative. I need you there now. We've got a location, there's movement. Looks like they are getting ready for an extraction. We need to head them off at the pass.
Permission to take main roads and make a loud entrance.
Permission granted.
This will put us on the division's radar.
It was inevitable. Maybe this time they'll actually see what we've been up against.
I hope you're right. Frankly, if they haven't figured out what's going on by now, I don't think they ever will.
Lone wolves. They have no trust and no support network. You pull one pin and the entire communication chain breaks down. This is why we have contingencies.
Send me the coordinates. I'll get my team there ASAP.
The division caught up with Captain Lewis at the Jefferson Trade Center, but before the agents could enter, Lewis puts out a message over the comms.
This is Captain Lewis. Black Tusk have taken Jefferson Trade Center. We need backup.
Lewis, this is Kelso. Put down your weapons and surrender. The division will take care of the Black Tusk.
It's not the Black Tusk you should be worried about. Have your team meet me inside.
I don't trust this guy. Don't shoot him. I want to know what he's up to.
Lewis is the last member left of his team, and he warns that it isn't the Black Tusk that are the problem, that there is something worse within these walls. Someone he refers to as the Recruiter.
Finally.
What's your status?
Armed and ready, but the lone survivor of my team.
If you want us to help you, we need you to secure the Shade Node.
You don't trust me to have your back?
I don't trust you to have my front. That trust has to be earned. Captain, defend the node. We can take care of Black Tusk.
Watch out for the Recruiter.
The what?
Oh, you'll see. Trust has to be earned.
While Kelso doesn't trust him, for now, the agents and Lewis will be teaming up against this new threat.
Unknown network detected.
What the fuck? I lost you for a second. I thought maybe the captain took out the node, but must have been some interference or something.
Rogue striker drone detected.
Enemy comms reveal that Jack Bonney is the one leading this operation, and that this is some sort of test for him.
You ready? Yes. Tell Bonnie to stop checking up on me. I know what I'm doing.
You know this is a test, right?
It's his test, not mine. I'm not looking for a promotion.
That's why I'm checking up on you.
The agents catch up with Lewis outside of the SHD node, where he has secured the area, stopping the Black Tusk from once again taking down the SHD network.
Agent Kelso, the True Sons have secured the entrance to the Shade Node. Your comms are secure.
Thank you, Captain.
No problem, Agent. True Sons know how to follow orders.
I'm set up. Agents on approach. Sir, get ready to be impressed. Agent, I've got you covered.
Captain, what are you doing?
The rest of the facility is secure. I'm providing air support. We can't let Bonnie get away.
What do you mean, air support?
Hey, Agent, unless you need a powder shower, might want to leave your ass.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Agent, I don't want you breathing that shit. Friendly fire my ass.
Rogue striker drone detected. System malfunctioning.
You're not the only one with air support.
System restored.
After fighting through the hordes of Black Tusk troops, the agents would eventually meet up with Bonnie in the final courtyard. Although he had brought along a Marauder-class quadcopter, the agents would slowly take it down. And with the unwanted help of Captain Lewis's DC-62 airstrikes, Bonnie too would be eliminated.
Identification confirmed. Agent Jack Bonney. Status classified. Deceased.
He was an agent. Classified. Bring me his watch. I've never seen that status before. What the fuck is going on here, Captain?
You know nothing, Kelso?
So, not friends.
If you finally figured out what the hell we're really up against, you know where to find me.
Knock it off with the yellow powder, or next time I'll have to kill you myself.
Talk to your boy. You're gonna need our help.
My boy? Who the fuck is my boy?
This has just been a slightly edited compilation of the Season 9 Manhunt. I had a lot of positive feedback about the last one I released, with people stating they prefer my longer style videos. But the true detail that has come from this season was through Fei Lau's insurance policy comms. I've released 3 videos on this so far, and these will be in the description. After such a long break, this season has been an awesome step forward for the story. Now that the next 2 seasons and Year 5 has been confirmed, I'm really looking forward to this new direction they're taking the story. Of course, we also have the new additions to the story that people are drip-feeding through to me, from the yet-to-be-released Resurgence and Heartland, which sounds like it'll really flesh out the detail in between. It looks like I'm going to be quite busy over the next year or so. I mean, I haven't even caught up with this season yet. There is so much more I'd like to cover. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this recap, and I'll catch you in the next one. For those of you who have used this to fall asleep, you're welcome. Cheers!